First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately? Second more, the equation E is equal mc squared. We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature. That's like when you're in physics and you go to a dream world saying, this is a physics excursion. Science, what is it all about? The whole of human history all falls in the dust or one stroke of a nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold. You tuned into what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot we call Earth. It is, of course, 4ZZZ, your community broadcaster. Be it on your conventional wireless radio by tuning into the classic frequency of 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4zzz.org. And of course, you can always listen back to us or any 4ZZZ show for that matter using the ingenious on-demand feature, also found at that URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, curated by Toby, a condensed version of the show without the music, which Mummy prefers. Just search for our show name, which is, of course, No Idea, spelt with a K. Your weekly dose of science. And joining me today are my favourite science influencers. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Gabe.
Good morning,
Morning, Max.
Yes.
Max, can I knock something on the head? I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to take my leave and eat up 30 extra seconds in the opening by just knocking something on the head so we can get past it and talk about stuff we want to talk about for the rest of the show.
Yes.
Very briefly, paracetamol and autism risk. Can we just get rid of this at the start of the show? Move on afterwards.
Yeah. Cool.
There is. Don't take health advice from
Orange
politicians.
Yeah.
All right, just don't do it. It's the political figures should not be giving you health advice. To summarize years and years of research, there is no strong link or established link between consumption of paracetamol, particularly during pregnancy, and higher autism risk in children, particularly children resulting from that pregnancy.
Yeah.
There have been studies that have shown a sort of very small correlation between paracetamol consumption during pregnancy and high risk of a couple of neurodevelopmental conditions. Mm-hmm. So that's happened. However, the biggest study to date that's been done on it was like 2.5 million children in Sweden.
That's a lot of kids in Sweden.
Where they actually controlled for all sorts of other conditions as well. Yeah. Socioeconomic factors, genetic factors, they matched siblings, all this sort of stuff. And what they found is that there was no link in that study. Every possible health organization you could look to has recently reconfirmed that paracetamol is something you should be taking. And they do also warn, a lot of these health agencies have been reminding us that suffering through something like a fever during pregnancy, or even if you're not in pregnancy, suffering through a fever or inflammation that's causing pain that can be treated with uses of these common over-the-counter pain reliefs is like, if you don't treat it, you can often end up with genuine issues. They are things that you should treat. And obviously, if you are pregnant or if you are at all concerned about the consumption of paracetamol, you should be listening to your medical professionals, that you are going and consulting your doctors, your OBGYNs, your pediatricians, and taking their advice, not the advice of an elected politician. So there's a great write-up if you want to look at more of the science in the conversation. There's some scientists who've gone through and just done a digest of it, but I'm just knocking that on the head. Cool. The link's not there. It's not true. Every possible organisation that you would trust on this sort of stuff has come out and confirmed that, including the Australian Therapeutic Goods Administration has just reaffirmed that the medical guidelines are the same. It's safe to take during pregnancy. So that's done.
And do not be in pain during your pregnancy.
I think we can park that. Yeah. But I needed to get that out of the way quickly, Max, because I had much more important stuff to get onto during the show, which is a physicist has been awarded an Ig Nobel Prize in the last few days for creating what he claims is the perfect pasta sauce.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So we'll get into that a little later. What do you got, Peter?
I have some sharks getting it on. Very exciting. Everyone's all a buzz about this. And then I've also got some itty bitty dolphins, some tiny little dolphins. Very cute.
Max?
I got wound healing. Just using vinegar, but they step it up a bit. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Extra vinegar. Concentrated, the stuff you only get in Bunnings.
Make me smart, Peter.
Well, I don't know if this will do that. I want to start off by saying that this story contains some more adult concepts than usual. So that's just a warning if there's kiddies around you. It is still sharks. So that's it's still sharks. It's in the ocean.
Yeah.
But it's just a warning in case you care about that. Today we're talking sex. Many animals do it, and many in very strange ways. And yesterday the internet was abuzz because some sharks did something never seen before. Max, do you want to guess what it was?
They had a threesome.
That's correct. Some leopard sharks were recorded. That's the key
French
thing.
sharks.
They were French. They were in New Caledonia. French sharks were recorded having a threesome, and it was key because it was recorded. So this critical research comes to us from the University of the Sunshine Coast, QS. Ranking, please.
Oh, really? Some Queenslanders are involved in this.
Queenslanders were involved.
Wow.
380.
I think it's a bit higher. I think it's going to be 480 or something.
It's actually a range. It's
Yeah.
1,001 to 1,200.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
300 really generous.
Yeah.
But this research was not done at the University of the Sunshine Coast or on the Sunshine Coast at all. It was done in Noumea, New Caledonia. So they were in fact French sharks. Researcher Dr. Hugo Lesauce, and I'm going to keep calling him that because I think his name is really fun. He was snorkeling in the area when he noticed something very odd. 3 leopard sharks in a very odd position on the sea floor. So there's the female in the middle, and then 2 males holding on by their teeth to her pectoral fins on either side. So 1 male either side. In the video, to me, that honestly...
Pectoral fins, as in the fins coming out.
Fins coming out the side.
The ones
ones
that the little arms.
Little arms, little wings. So there's 1 male on either wing holding on by their teeth. And
Yeah.
honestly, when I watched the video, the first thing I thought of was like mums in the supermarkets being held on each arm by a toddler.
Right.
That was the vibe.
That is
They're
normal.
Just hanging on.
Like a lot of sharks will do that, biting.
They will do biting of some
As
sort,
part of
not always the
reproduction.
pectoral fin.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the body, but yeah, some like one of the genuinely one of the ways that they check whether a female has had sex in her life is whether she has bite marks.
Oh, really?
Because it's
Okay.
just a part of how they do it. A lot of sharks, anyway. I mean, if you think about it, it's really hard to hang on when you've got no opposable thumbs and you're in the water. So
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the ways they do it. So if you want to, we'll post it later on our TikTok if you want to see the video. All of them, by the way, are about 2.3 meters long, so pretty big sharks. But I think like leopard sharks are one of the most gorgeous sharks. They're really stunning. They're sleek. They're long. They've got these almost eel-like tails, and they're covered in spots. Hence the name. So Dr. Lesauce sees this and thinks, well, that's weird. I should probably stick around and see what happens. And so he waits, and he waits for over an hour. He must have been so cold. I can't even tell you how freezing you get in the water when you're doing nothing for an hour. And they were just on the seafloor. So eventually, he said, after an hour, he had the GoPros running the whole time. They rose to the surface and the real action began. So the first male began what they call in the actual study, in the abstract, as copulatory thrusting. And I'm going to leave you to watch the video or imagine that. And because it's all on video, we know that he lasts 63 seconds. Then he detaches from the female and sits on the seafloor. Then the next one goes almost immediately after, which was the big deal. It takes 47 seconds and then also disengages. Dr. Lesauce says that the males, quote, lost all their energy and lay immobile on the bottom
Big
while the
day for
female
both of
swam
them.
actively away. So
The female swam actively.
yeah, she was like, I'm going. That was terrible.
I got it lunch day.
They were hanging on for an hour beforehand, and then that was it. Man, rough day to be a female leopard shark. But this isn't just interesting because lol shark threesome. It's because while it's rare to see any shark sex in the wild, these are critically endangered sharks. So filming a threesome of critically endangered leopard sharks is major news, you know? Very exciting. They actually said the video confirmed some mating habits that they'd seen in captivity. And so they think it may even help them with artificial insemination, which is something they're actively doing with these leopard sharks as they're trying to breed them up in captivity. Even to the extent of knowing how many fathers usually contribute to a batch of eggs. Like that's not something we currently know. So maybe this is more common. Maybe they have 2 fathers fathers per clutch. Who knows?
Yeah.
And leopard sharks are the ones that we've covered before for doing the parthenogenesis.
Yeah.
Parthenogenesis.
Okay, yeah.
Where the females that haven't had any
They can clone themselves,
known
basically.
contact with a male are able to give birth to pups that then actually hatch.
And are able to reproduce themselves,
And
which is the key
and are
thing.
viable themselves. Yeah.
So leopard sharks have some crazy reproduction stuff going on. Absolutely wild. And this is just another thing going to it. They also think, and this is really exciting, that they may have accidentally, through this video, found out that this base in New Caledonia is a critical mating habitat.
Yeah.
Which will help them try and, protect and conserve the species if they allow them to get their frick on in this area. Yeah. That's
Good stuff.
Well,
I love the leopard
interesting
sharks
stuff.
because they're called zebra sharks in some parts of the world because the young look so different when they do hatch.
Yeah.
The
Right.
young are
stripy.
striped. They're black and white striped.
Yes.
And the adults look. I think it's the most aptly named ocean creature that has a name from a land creature. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Pretty
seahorse.
similar.
Where's the horse?
It's their face. The
Where's
face
the
is like
saddle?
a horse.
But right, exactly. But a leopard shark, that thing's got leopard spots.
Yeah.
It could maybe pass as a cheetah shark, but we'll go with leopard
No,
shark.
cheetahs have the little C's.
Yeah, but and then the young though are striped, and I think you've also talked about previously on the show how they
Yeah.
think one of the reasons that they might have that stripe and
When
a
they're young.
really long tail that they then carry into adulthood that they don't seem to have a purpose for as an adult.
Yeah.
This massive long tail is to look like a venomous sea snake when they're young,
Yes.
so that things
Okay.
don't eat them.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Which is why they're called zebra sharks over
Yeah,
there
it's a
and
good
leopard
idea.
sharks here. And
Maybe
they're
we
the same
should paint our young with stripes.
thing. Yeah.
You ever thought about that?
Okay.
Parenting hack for you.
You tune into 4 Triple Z, and the show is No Idea. With me, Max. We got Issy. We got Gabe. We got Peta. As part 2 of this. I have to do the station IDs because our show won't get renewed otherwise.
Oh no.
Yeah. We got to maintain our uncancelable status.
Correct. What do you got for us, Gabe?
We're going to the cryosphere, Max. Part of the world
Yeah.
where the land and sea has water
Cold.
that is frozen. Cold, but yeah, specifically anywhere where you're at or below ground level.
Yes.
And the water is frozen. That is the cryosphere.
Gotcha.
And
Sick name.
specifically, we're going to one place in the cryosphere
Is that where
a
Walt Disney is?
rust-coloured-
Or?
Where Walt Disney is crazy,
Where
Max.
Walt Disney.
If you're concerned about us getting renewed, you can't say stuff like that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What is it?
Famously, ticking off Disney is not going well for people at the moment.
Yes.
But we're going to go to one place.
That they can't reach
Go
you.
to one place in the cryosphere in particular where a rust-coloured mystery has started leaking. It's in parts of Alaska. There are rivers formed by melting ice that are turning orange.
Oh, I've read about this.
And we
remember
now know even more of the reason behind why. This study was published in the journal The Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, PNAS, by researchers at Umeå University in Sweden. You got a curious ranking?
Give us that pronunciation again.
Umeå.
Wonderful.
U-M-E and then A with 2 little degrees symbols on top of it.
Yeah. That's
That's what it's
umlaut.
That
Okay.
is not an umlaut.
It's not umlaut.
Jesus.
It is a Swedish lout.
A swillout, if you will. I'm going to go for Sweden, I'm going to go 286.
I'm going to stay with 380.
The Swedish
Okay.
people. 182.
401. Well done, Max.
Oh, good job,
Bring it
Maxie.
in.
And when I say orange, some of these photos are wild. It looks like a lava flow, but like cold.
Yes.
But it's still, but
Static.
because of the stuff that's causing it orange, it is actually killing some of the vegetation that it flows over. If it's not, especially if it's like a flow that's over the top of existing vegetation, like like a temporary bit of water flow, a stream forming, it kills everything. So it does look like a cold lava flow. Like that's the look we're going for.
The
A
vibe.
very strong orange color in parts, and then in other parts it's more of like a brown snake sort of look. But
Classic.
Brownie
yeah.
brown.
Great
snake.
look.
Brisbane River vibes. But there
If
are
you know,
at
you
least,
know.
There are at least 75 streams that are turning orange in the Arctic part of Alaska, which is the far north part of Alaska, where only the crazy people live. The good crazy and the bad crazy, but
Lots
only
of
the
crazy.
crazies.
Yeah.
And it's called the Salmon River, one of them.
Oh, so not great for the salmon then.
Well, do you want to guess what it's named after?
I was going to guess salmon running up it.
Bang on.
Yeah.
Well done.
Because they do that. That's kind of their thing.
And there's a quote about this river in a Science magazine write-up on it that was published recently from an author called John McPhee, who said about 50 years ago, the Salmon River has the clearest, purest water I have ever seen.
Wow.
But
not great for the salmon, though. Easy to be caught by a bear.
Yes, it's true. Since 2019, the river has turned this orangey, yellowy colour, pretty dramatically too. There was a researcher who, in a previous different study that was studying this, saying he'd looked at and said it just looked like sewage when he was flying over it in 2019.
Oh,
And so they started studying what was happening. And then some other researchers who have published this recent stuff have made a finding that's pretty awesome bit of chemistry of what's going on that's actually causing this to happen. So the colors comes from a whole lot of metals. We know this, including a lot of toxic metals. So yeah, not good for the salmon and everything else that lives there. And in one of the studies that was done previously, they found some of these metals were 3 to 37 times higher in 2023 than they were a decade earlier. So huge elevations. And it looks a lot like mining waste. The composition is actually like certain types of mining waste, but it's not. We know it's not. Mining's not happening around there. We know it's something else that's going on. And one of the key metals that's in there that's giving it that orangey color is iron, right? So that classic rust orange irony color. That's a big part of
Is there also copper?
Because
oxidized copper goes
there's
quite
copper,
orange.
there was zinc, there's all the usual suspects and a whole lot more. There's lots of different things that they've detected elevated levels of. But iron's the one that they see a lot of, and it particularly is giving it that colour. And so...
Can I make a guess as to what's happening?
Go for it.
Random guess. I feel like as the ice is melting in Alaska and the permafrost is melting, what usually happens is the land underneath, actually it's like quite spongy, and so it rebounds and it gets quite big. And so I wonder whether the melting ice with the rebounding land is getting all those nutrients that have been trapped underneath for years. That's my guess.
Okay.
Might be wrong. That's my guess.
Park the guess, and we'll come back to it. The thing is, this has only started happening 6 years ago, and the turning orange, and there's no records that it's happened previously. It might have, but we don't have any records of it happening. So the question is, why now? Is it just the fact that we're there more, but there's more cameras around and we've just picked it up for the first time, or is something different going on? So to try and figure this out, they studied how iron oxide dissolves when in water and in ice. Some basic chemistry would tell us that something, they had other stuff in these solutions as well. For the chemists out there, I know there's going to be one person listening who's going to be annoyed at how much I've simplified the chemistry of this.
Me.
And two people listening who are going to be annoyed at how I've simplified the chemistry of this. I know I have. I've gone as deep as I feel is possible to go without completely just losing the plot and
True.
I read these chemistry this is like one of the few times when I read a paper and I'm just blanking every sentence and Googling every third word. Like it's so much, but I know I've oversimplified this. I think it's for the best. The basic chemistry would tell us that in warmer conditions, something like iron should dissolve faster in water. So in this case, iron would dissolve faster in water if it's at 25 degrees than if it's frozen at negative 10 degrees,
Yeah,
right?
more
That
energy.
would be what basic chemistry would tell us.
But water has weird stuff. Water's weird.
Yeah, so what they tested those two conditions, so 25 degree water and negative 10 degree ice, 25 degree liquid water, I should say.
Yes.
And then they also had a midpoint of 4 degree liquid water. So they had iron oxide with some other stuff in acidic conditions to speed up the dissolving in ice, cold water, and room temperature water. Okay, and then what they found was that it's the complete opposite of what basic chemistry would tell us. They found that under the, depending on what other stuff they had in the water, pretty much always the negative 10 degree ice dissolved more iron in it than the 4 degree water and the 25 degree water.
And so you wouldn't see it in the ice, but when it melts into the water, you will suddenly see a lot of iron.
So, well, kind of.
No,
so
never mind.
Because the question is then, how does that then turn a river orange, right? Just the fact that ice can dissolve it more.
Yeah.
And it comes down to when how the water's freezing. So it's like the basic chemistry is true. Things that are happening at high temperatures, like it does speed up chemical reactions. What's happening here is a bit of a trick where when the water is freezing, water doesn't like forming ice with other little particles like iron wedged in there. It doesn't like forming that crystal structure with other stuff in. Stuff does get trapped in there, but it forces a lot of these particles out, which means at a really small scale, like between grains of ice, between actual crystals of ice, you get these tiny pockets of liquid water within the ice with really high concentrations of all of these other particles that get forced out as the ice forms. And these particles include iron and other stuff that are needed to dissolve iron, including stuff that makes the water more acidic. So you get these little tiny pockets of water in between the ice that then are like the perfect conditions to dissolve iron quickly. And so that's what happens. It dissolves really quickly. The thing is, like you said, Peter, these areas, these Arctic areas, like in Alaska, are permafrost in the sense that it is permanently frozen. It doesn't melt. So those tiny pockets of iron in the water just get held there. They're not going anywhere. They're held in the ice. They're held in the frozen ground, the frozen soil, the frozen sediment. And so something has changed. And like Peter mentioned, what we've seen is a changing climate has warmed these areas at certain times and led to melting.
Frost not so perma.
Exactly. We get a loss of the permafrost. And so it starts melting. And as it melts, suddenly these pockets of tiny little bits of liquid water with lots of iron are getting released, and then it gets leaks out into the water stream. And the soils themselves in these areas are often quite acidic. Because of the other stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
So it's sort of the perfect conditions for this to happen. And then what they also found in this research is that when refreezing happens, which has been happening, as we sort of slowly warm, the conditions get slowly warmer at times, as the permafrost refreezes and melts and refreezes and melts, any of the particles that did end up trapped in the ice have another opportunity to get forced out into these little pockets of liquid water in between the ice, and it happens all over again. And so you get all of the high concentrations of everything that can dissolve the iron and presumably all of these other metals as well.
Yeah.
And it just gives it more opportunities to leak and leak and leak. And what they found is that if you freeze and freeze and melt and freeze and melt and freeze and melt, it's just like a beautiful way of extracting. It is. It's purifying the ice. That's exactly what it is. And as a result, all of these metals, including iron, get leached out into the environment, and
not great for the salmon.
Turning these rivers orange, and in some cases partially toxic to things like salmon and the vegetation and all the other fish and everything else that's living in there. And so they're saying, this is just another one of these unforeseen impacts of a changing climate is that you get a permafrost that suddenly isn't perma anymore and is a temporary frost, and it's like these perfect conditions that you wouldn't predict for stuff like iron to get into the water. And there are other things going on here as well. There's like other stuff where the thawing out of these areas could expose bedrock that has a lot of sulfides in it, which then when it hits the oxygen in the air forms sulfuric acid, which then makes the ground more acidic and increases the amount of metals getting dissolved. So there's other stuff going on as well. But yeah, they've done this. I think it's just a beautiful bit of science, finding this like really niche chemical interaction that's going on with how ice is interacting with stuff like iron and other little particles that are in there. And then at a big scale, it's turning at least 75 rivers in Alaska orange, like pristine rivers turning orange as a result of this little interaction that it's just another example of how little we understand and how much there is going on out in the world. And when we start messing with it, it turns a river orange. I think that's just incredible.
Accidents happen, but proper wound care can prevent complications. First thing is to stop the bleeding by applying gentle pressure with a clean cloth. Then clean the wound thoroughly with mild soap and running water. Avoid alcohol or hydrogen peroxide as they can damage tissue. Pat your cut dry. Apply an antibiotic ointment if available and cover it with a sterile bandage. Try to use a bandage with a hydrocolloid type of dressing. These dressings contain gel-forming agents which retain moisture for 3 to 5 days. It's best to keep your wound moist as you want to promote faster healing while minimizing disruption to the natural healing process. Daily or frequent dressing changes can can interfere with scab formation, which slows healing and causes scarring. If the dressing becomes wet, soiled, or shows signs of fluid leaking through, change the dressing promptly to prevent bacterial growth. Remember, the point of a bandage is to protect your cut against dirt and bacteria. If your wound is deep, won't stop bleeding, or shows signs of infection like redness or discharge, go to your GP or the emergency room. 4ZZZ cares about our community.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy, we've got Gabe, we've got Peta.
You do.
Part 3. So you would have heard that consumer service announcement about wound care.
Oh, I love hearing that in the morning.
You like wound care? Yeah.
It's not one of my favourite subjects, but
Yeah, big hobby
we
of
can talk
mine.
about it.
What I love to do
I
on
love
the
waking
weekend.
up in the morning and thinking about wound care.
Anyway, I'll kick it off. Wounds that do not heal are often caused by bacterial infections and are particularly dangerous for the elderly and people with diabetes, cancer, or other conditions.
Delightful.
Acetic acid, or vinegar, has been used for centuries as a disinfectant, but it is only effective against a small number of bacteria, and it does not kill the most dangerous types until now. New research.
Super vinegar.
New research led by researchers at University of Bergen, that's in Norway, QS ranking.
The Norwegians. Bergen.
Bergen.
That's hard.
I know.
342.
The Norwegian ones are all over the place. There's a couple of really high placed ones. I haven't
500.
heard much from. Yeah, I think it's like a 700.
No, Peter's is close. It's 287.
Point stands.
I would have been so close before.
And Flinders University QS ranking.
I should remember
Damn
this
it.
one. 300.
Yeah, close.
250.
356.
It's 100 more than Bergen, so it's 387.
Damn.
What the hell?
The research has resulted in the ability to boost the natural bacterial killing qualities of vinegar by adding antimicrobial nanoparticles made from carbon.
Can you still call it vinegar then?
I think that's a different thing.
That's a different thing at that point. It's vinegar plus something else.
And cobalt.
Yeah, so it's blue vinegar.
The research,
What? That's not vinegar.
the research is being published in the journal ACS Nano. Now, fun fact about carbon. Did you know it's the second most abundant element in the human body?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the most abundant element is in the human body?
The human body, I would assume hydrogen.
You'd be close. It's the other bit of the water.
Oxygen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So those two, yeah, would be pretty
it's
big.
it. Yeah. And
To be fair, there is 2 oxygen to every hydrogen. No, sorry, wrong way around. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. It's H2O.
Wow.
No,
She
HO2.
was coming at me for my chemistry.
Toby, edit that out, please.
No.
As part of the study, molecular biologists added cobalt-containing carbon quantum dot nanoparticles into weak acetic acid to create a potent antimicrobial treatment. They used this mixture against several pathogenic species, including the drug-resistant Staphylococcus and E. coli. The acidic environment from the vinegar made bacterial cells swell and take up the nanoparticle treatment. The study's authors report, once exposed, the nanoparticles appear to attack dangerous bacteria from both inside the bacterial cell and also on its surface, causing them to burst. Importantly, this approach is non-toxic to human cells and was shown to remove bacterial infections from mice wounds without affecting healing.
Wounds on mice, not mice-driven wounds on humans, I'm assuming.
This makes more sense. Yeah.
They didn't get mice to go bite humans and then treat them with this blue super vinegar.
So
This
looking
makes
at
a lot more sense now that I know the vinegar has a part to play. I thought it was going to be like, I've discovered a new way of making hot dogs better for pain relief. All you do is shove some Panadol in there and it makes it a lot better.
Anyway, big picture, there's about around 4.5 million deaths associated with a direct infectious disease. Boosting vinegar's natural antibacterial properties with novel nanoparticles could prove to be a cost-effective approach towards the ongoing battle against the rising antimicrobial resistant levels worldwide.
So if we just roid up
Roid up.
vinegar.
Yeah.
Surely. I have fallen down a TikTok cleaning hole at the current moment.
Yes.
So as soon as I heard
very-
vinegar, and then
Yeah.
I've been loving the discourse about whether baking soda and vinegar is a good cleaning combo, because half of the people are like, it's just a chemical reaction, and the other half
it
are like, no,
neutralizes each other.
I live and die for this. So
Yes.
I want to see the roided up vinegar versus baking soda.
It definitely helped with that soap bacteria in the shower.
Yeah.
And yeah. So,
Good for carpets. Cleans carpets when you drop your wine on it.
well,
Oh, hasn't happened to me. But good to know.
I'm pitching this idea. Would it clean blood off a carpet then? Like if it's wound
No,
healing?
because human cells apparently no.
Okay.
If it's mouse blood, it might.
No, 'cause that's what Max
you
was
got
saying. The
some-
Oh,
mice.
right. No, it's got to be bacteria.
It didn't hurt the
Yeah,
mice
that's the
either. It has to
point.
be bacteria.
Yeah.
But
Get
if
the
you do have
bacteria.
blood on something, cold water is, as someone who's cleaned a lot of blood, cold water is the thing to do.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And if you get honey on your hands, cold water cleans it off straight away.
Interesting.
What are you doing? Wine on the carpets, honey on your hands. What's happening,
I
Max?
did
Just living life.
beekeeping at school. It was great. Like, yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I think we need to implement. It's springtime. We need to implement like a cleaning section of this. Because
Science of cleaning.
science of cleaning. Because cold water is good to know.
Yeah.
Fantastic to know.
Job done.
Anyway,
You tune into 4 tune into 4 Triple Z, the show's no idea.
Jeez.
I don't know. I'm lost.
Could be anything.
With
Could
me,
be.
Max, we got Issy, we got our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist who will be speaking in the next hour. Gabriel, what do you got for us?
Max, I've got for you the science of cooking, which we used to have a sting for. I'm not going to play it today because I think the segment took some time away. It needed to be with its family for a bit, find itself, and I think we were even toying with a soft
Australia's first MasterChef has to have that kind of genius.
Understanding the science allows you to think of new things to do.
Anyone can cook.
No soggy bottom. All of the creative stuff won't work unless you've got an absolute solid foundation. That's so important.
Never mind. We found it already.
No, it's all right.
But it's had its moment. Something's happened, Max, that has summoned this segment back on air because the Ig Nobel Prize for Physics has gone to what has been called the perfect pasta sauce.
Hell yeah.
So the Ig Nobel Prizes are the prizes, they're like the counter, the yang to the yin of the Nobel Prizes.
Yeah.
Nobel
and-
Prizes change the world, but no one's saying the Ig Nobels don't.
Well, their
either.
slogan is first make people laugh, then make them think. And
Hell
so now, my proposal, before I start this, there are a bunch of them. I wanted to cover every single one this week. I had to pick one.
Yes.
I'm asking you not to look at the others, and I'm going to, once a week for the next few weeks, I'll bring up one of the other Ig Nobel Prizes.
Yeah.
But this one is the
I
Ig
vow
Nobel
to not
Prize.
look.
You can't look. This is the Ig Nobel Prize for Physics. There's part of this alleged perfect pasta sauce, though, that is very controversial. Specifically because they say they've perfected the cacio e pepe sauce.
Hell yeah.
So this is a simple sauce, but its love and tradition runs very deep. Its traditional recipe is, I think there's different traditional recipes, but the one that I sort of landed on as the core traditional recipe is pecorino cheese, pasta water, and salt and pepper to taste.
Yeah.
Cacio e pepe means cheese and pepper, right? So those are the two key things.
Delish.
But it's very tricky to get right. Mixing these ingredients can often lead to a stodgy or lumpy sauce. The idea is you just have like a very basic sauce with the pasta water and the cheese, and that's what you're sitting the pasta in. And this happens because the proteins in the cheese denature once it passes 65 degrees C. So if you stuff it up, it clumps up, everything breaks down. It's not a nice
Disaster.
sauce. The pasta cooking water is supposed to stop this, with the starches that cook out into that water meant to help stabilize the sauce, so it stops things like the protein denaturing, and emulsify the sauce, so it brings together things that don't
Shiny.
want to be together, like oils and water. The problem is pasta sauce doesn't usually carry enough starch to get the job done, and
Pasta
here's
water?
where this
Yeah.
research comes in. Pasta water, sorry.
Yeah.
And this is what may get some of the Italians riled up, because this peer-reviewed paper was published in the Journal of Physics of Fluids. It comes to us thanks to Fabrizio Olmida from the Institute of Science and
So he's
Technology,
Italian.
Austria. Yeah, but published out of an Austrian institution, which is a research group, so it doesn't have a QS.
Yes.
The Max Planck Institute was also involved in
Oh,
this.
there you go.
And Fabrizio is a statistical physicist specializing in single-cell genomics. And the man clearly has a hobby, though, because this is what he says is the traditional recipe. So the traditional recipe is pecorino cheese, pasta water, salt and pepper. And he claims to have perfected it by adding a sixth ingredient.
Italians
All
knocking
right.
at the door as we speak.
Do you want to hear what he says?
Love.
The starch in pasta water is supposed to emulsify and stabilize the sauce.
However, it's rarely enough on its own. What we found is that using just the right amount of starch is key to a perfect sauce.
Starch is what they've added. So corn flour, cornstarch, potato starch. That's what they've added.
Controversial.
Yeah, very controversial. Technically, they add 7 ingredients because they also add fresh water to the starch to make a gel. But they say starch is about 2 to 3% the mass of how much cheese you're using. You make into a gel with some fresh water, blend it into the cheese at a low temperature.
Oh, what?
And that process of
Blenders
blending
are
it
involved.
into the cheese, at a low temperature, binds the extra starch with the proteins of the cheese, preventing that clumping in the final sauce. And Fabrizio says these are small but smart changes.
Well.
And ends up with the perfect sauce. So to recap, that's 4 grams. For the standard recipe, 4 grams of a starch like corn flour, 40 mils of water, 160 grams of pecorino romano, 240 grams of pasta, ideally tonarelli, pasta cooking water, black pepper, and a bit of salt to taste.
I want to try this out. I'm going to try this out tonight. That's my
next line. I'm going to try both versions.
Right. Oh.
Compare the two, and I'm going to report back next week when I do the next Ig Nobel segment. That's what I got for you, Max.
MKR, mate.
Damn.
Well done.
What do the next 50 years of 4ZZZ sound like? We have no idea.
Yeah.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy, we've got Gabe, we've got Maximillian.
Okay, it's time for the best part of the show. Loosely defined as science, yeah, you already know. Everybody listens to 4ZZZ just to hear us talking about what Butters just did. Subscriptions just keep rolling like the tires on a car. But something tells me that our science curves won't go far. But unlike an engine, I won't keep you in suspension. We're all here to hear him talk, so let's give him attention. You're not ready for when he starts rapping. Gonna hand the mic to Max, and I'm not talking Van Stappen.
No anthem this week. Sorry.
Dun, dun.
Sad face.
It seems that high-speed tracks like Monza and Baku negate McLaren's overall advantage.
It also feels like Red Bull have found something at those sort of circuits. Between the new floor and that really low-profile wing that they've got.
Yeah, totally. So qualifying was quite the ordeal with the 6 red flags. So when you have a red flag, everyone has to go into the pits and stop for a while they clean up the wreckage.
I'm pretty sure qualifying was longer than the race because of this.
Yes. It felt like it. Watching the highlights was just like, oh, there's like 6 major incidents, and it was so long.
It was, wasn't it?
And the race, I was like, oh, it's done. No stopping, no starting.
So we had Max Verstappen, P1, starting on P1. Carlos Sainz for Williams. That's a newie, isn't it? And Liam,
wonderful, right?
Fantastic.
And Liam Lawson, the Kiwi, driving the Racing Bulls, so the sister team to the Red Bull team. He got P3 starting grid.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have a language warning for this because we've got a little ditty to play about Liam Lawson. You ready? 15 seconds.
Every fucking driver, get out of my way! I'm Liam Lawson! I'm Liam Lawson!
And there you go. So the race.
Oh my god.
Aussie Oscar managed to crash out in both qualifying.
We're just moving on. We're just moving on with that.
Qualifying and the race. So, and for good measure, Oscar also jumped the start, which is an automatic 5-second penalty.
Just error central for the driver who has made a name for himself for being Mr. Consistency.
Mr. Consistency.
Yeah. I was the second
a bad weekend.
The second, third, and fourth time he's made a mistake all season.
Yeah.
I was going to say, he had a streak of never DNF, at all. He would always race. Even if he spun out, he would always keep going. What has happened? Did you see that photo of him feet up watching the race?
From a mobile phone.
Mobile phone.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
goodness.
think Baku giveth and Baku taketh away.
Yeah. So that 44 streak of not DNFing came to a sudden halt. Lewis still remains the record holder on 48 consecutive races finishes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no. In the glory days of Mercedes. So, yeah.
I think it was only from 2020 onwards though or something. Crazy, right? Like it's did it get stopped by him getting COVID or did it start after he came back?
That's a good point.
I actually don't know.
Max Verstappen won the race from pole. Mr. Saturday, George Russell, came home in the Mercedes.
Where did he come from?
I don't know. He just waits for people just to fall off somehow, and he just manages to be there. He had a stomach virus or something as well, didn't he?
It was respiratory, respiratory.
Okay.
He said, one Redditor described it as him sounding like Darth Vader the whole weekend.
And there was an opportunity that Bottas would have driven his car, but it wasn't to be. And Carlos Sainz converted his P2 grid position into P3. So not too bad for the Williams team to have a podium this year.
Yeah, they genuinely didn't think they would even be in contention. Like, even this race. They thought, oh yeah, the P2 quality result, bit of an upset, but, you know, we're just going to fall back in the race. And no, they managed to actually convert. Well done, Sainzy, the smooth operator.
So Piastri's still leading the championship, the Drivers' Championship. So
Yes.
that's one blessing, I guess, after a dismal weekend for Australians anyway.
Yeah, and for McLaren, I mean, it's not like Lando really converted this advantage. He could potentially have it could have swung in Lando's favour here, but the gap is still 25 points.
It is, yeah.
Which feels like, you know, I mean, that's a whole race win that Lando has to now somehow make up when he could have, you know, potentially been on the podium. The McLaren didn't actually seem that slow. It's just they couldn't put a quali lap together. Either driver couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly Oscar did a bit worse by putting it in the wall, but then, yeah, just it turned into a bit of a DRS train during the race, unfortunately.
It did, because we were excited for Baku, because it usually throws up a few things, but it certainly did throw up a few things.
Yeah.
But, it was quite a dull race in the end.
But yeah, all the crashing and burning happened in quali as opposed to in the race, which is what you want.
So we go to Singapore for the next race. So the McLarens should be back to their winning ways.
Well, let's hope so anyway.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Let's hope Red Bull haven't found this new secret or something.
There's a bit of back talk about Max Verstappen possibly winning the championship this year on this current form, but
he would have to make up technically like more points per race than James Hunt did against Niki Lauda back in the day.
Okay.
which involved Niki Lauda almost dying.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's entirely possible, but again, I think there's one thing that we can say about Max Verstappen over the years. It's like you cannot count him out.
True.
Whatsoever.
Gabriel, any more thoughts on the F1?
No, nothing more. You got NASCAR stuff?
Yeah, NASCAR former supercar champion Shane Van Gisbergen finished 32nd at New Hampshire Motor Speedway on the weekend. It's an oval circuit, but it's quite flat oval circuit. So he was up there. He was in P5 there for a while at the beginning of the race. And then he got tapped out, which sent him back down the order to 32nd. And Sail GP, which you informed me, Gabe, was on the weekend, was in Geneva, Switzerland. Even though Team Australia, they're called the Flying Roos now, did not win the final race.
Is that serious?
Yeah.
Does everything have to be a kangaroo in this country?
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
It's just, it's Bond's Flying Roos, that's why.
Yeah.
Everything's sponsored now. Team France won the final race of the regatta, but Australia did manage to accrue enough points during the regatta to once again lead this year's Sail GP Championship. So the Team Great Britain now sits in second, and the Black Foils, they call themselves, or Team New Zealand, Peta, is now in third. So, yeah, job done. Any more for the MotoRap?
Just this weekend, Max, MotoGP.
Yes.
Coming up in Japan. And then, F1 is 2 weeks away in Singapore with the F1 Academy joining then
Yes,
as
they are.
well.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
That weekend also has the next Sail GP in Spain.
Yeah.
And then next Supercars is the big one in Bathurst, mid-October.
That's it. Cool. You tuned into Triple Z.
Whoa, what was that? Sorry, we might need to take him off air to reboot him. Jeez.
You tuned into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max. We got Issy, we got Gabe, and I got our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist, Peta. What do you got for us?
It's me. Okay, what is the world's smallest dolphin?
Whoa. World's small. Is it the vaquita?
The vaquita. The vaquita is the
one
correct
that's about
answer.
to go extinct in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what's the world's smallest marine dolphin?
Excuse me?
The vaquita's not actually wholly marine. They live in estuaries. So what's the smallest marine dolphin?
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Some sort of porpoise is my guess.
It's the Hector's dolphin. I did say dolphin.
Yeah.
But they're pretty similar in size, actually, the Hector's dolphin and the vaquita.
I thought a porpoise was a type of dolphin.
They're cetaceans.
Oh.
Cetaceans is the
Caught
big
out
one.
on a technicality.
Caught out. So the Hector's dolphin are actually endemic to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and they are very, 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 very cute. They're really cute. like I said, they're about the same size as a vaquita. The only difference is that the males in the vaquitas are smaller. So that's how they win the smallest overall.
Okay.
But Hector's dolphins are mainly found around the coast of the South Island in Aotearoa. They're about 1.5 metres long, so shorter than me, which is pretty cute. And they have very rounded fins, which just only like adds to the cute look, including their dorsal fin, which is the bit that's on their back that sticks out of the water. It looks kind of like Mickey Mouse's ear. Like, it's so round. They're just very round, they're very small, very cute little dolphins. Can't tell you how cute they are. But, sad news, they're also endangered. They've got about 15,000 individuals remaining in the wild, and their primary threat is fishing, being caught in nets through bycatch. And they drown because they are mammals who need to breathe air. So, there's researchers from the University of Auckland. QS ranking, please.
Oh, no.
90.
I think it's around there, Max. I think it's 80.
75.
It's 65, Issy, you win.
Yeah.
So proud of you all for no one being mean to my hometown. I would have been mad. So researchers from the University of Auckland wanted to know more about how they move. Just some more information. Now, like many marine creatures, their behaviour underwater was pretty poorly known because it's hard to see what they're doing underwater when we're above the water. Newsflash, everybody. Difficult things to do. And there was concern that the marine protected areas and conservation measures weren't really working. And so maybe they were based on this incomplete data about how they move and where they're going and like where are they feeding, all of that sort of stuff. So they decided to track them. They found 11 Hector's dolphins in Te Kokoa Kupe, or Cloudy Bay, in the South Island. And they attached some really fancy tags to them. They're high-resolution multi-sensor biologging tags, or D tags. And they were attached by suction cup, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So no glue, just whack them on. Suction cups. And they lasted various amounts of times. The longest one that I saw was 24 hours. So kind of cool.
Can we get whatever that suction cup is on all of the stuff that you meant to put up in your shower with suction cups?
Yeah.
Because I swear, I've never had one of those last 24 hours.
Yeah. It should be fair, this was only 150 grams, they said.
Yeah. But it was also
really light.
on a dolphin.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving at high
pace.
speeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair. And in different pressure, so yeah, to be fair, probably we could use that suction cup technology. These tags, by the way, recorded movement in 3 dimensions: depth, orientation, and like orientation of the body of the dolphin, and acoustic data, including echolocation, clicks, and buzzers for up to 24 hours per individual.
Cool. They were mapping them and listening at the same time.
Yes. And figuring out what direction they were facing.
Yeah, cool.
All of those things. And in total, they recorded about 83 hours of data. They also tried to do both day and night, but some of them popped off earlier, so they really only got a small amount of data from the nighttime. Doesn't matter. Still really cool. And then they looked at all this data and they analysed their posture, diving depth, feeding tactics, and distinguished between seafloor dives versus mid-water hunts and sort of their behaviours. And they found that Hector's dolphins are gnarly little acrobats. They dive far deeper than they previously thought and with a lot more drama. So in the 83 logged hours, the dolphins performed more than 1,974 dives greater than 5 metres.
Wow.
That's insane. And then they have this one graph where you can just see the amount of dives this one dolphin's doing as it moves away from the shore, and it's just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I was like, man,
How
that
long
seems...
is each dive?
I did not check that. But they're not that long. They're reasonably short because they have a record of it, yeah. So the maximum dive depths recorded were 120 metres, which is actually far deeper than previously documented for these dolphins, implying that they go deeper than they thought. And the farthest offshore distance for the tagged dolphin was 15 kilometres from shore, so quite far offshore. Then they had these sort of weird behavioural tactics, and they sort of varied by depth. So actually, the coolest thing was that when they were near the sea floor, the dolphins often turned upside down and then just sort of cruised really slowly upside down.
Yeah.
And they think they were doing this to hunt flatfish and cod, who sit like quite close to the seafloor.
Wow.
And then when they're in the midwater, they were like much faster, and they would do these barrel rolls to catch schooling fish, which is crazy. So they're spinning, they're going upside down, they're doing all this stuff.
Is that to use the echolocation that has that sort of base in the top of their head?
They think that could be an idea. They were talking a lot about the echolocation, and they have this recording of them. They use clicks, and then as they get closer to the prey, they turn into this buzzing sound. So it's like click, 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 and then it goes bzzz, as they get closer to what they think is they got it. Obviously, they didn't have a video, so they can't tell if they actually predated something, but they think that's what it is. And then, yeah, they think it could be, but we're not entirely sure. This was more just proving that it happens. And then in shallow dives, they had more rolling, and then in deeper, they did that upside down posture. They critically also found, with the minimal night data that they had, that the dolphins performed deeper dives further offshore during this time. And they've made this graph, which is a really cool little graph, and it's like a 3D sort of map with their track of one of the dives, and they've added a 3D model of the dolphin, of the little Hector's dolphin, that turns and twists in relation to what they saw. So you can just see this, like, almost, you know those little plastic dolphin figurines you used to get from Toy World? It's like one of those spinning and stuff. It's like a kid's playing with the toy. But they also have the recording of their sounds over the dive as well. So it's rolling and going upside down, and you can hear its clicks and rumbles. It's like a little rave. It's really fun. So all of this is super interesting and fun to watch, but we're doing this to save these little cuties. So what did they learn? The behaviours commonly take place outside of established marine protected zones and beyond previously assumed depth limits. So essentially, the current conservation methods are not enough. Like, they say it a little less certainly in their stuff, but to me that's a pretty clear indication that the conservation is not in the right place and not at the right times. So they're going to need to update that, and that's why this sort of data is really useful, is to be able to say, well, actually, they're not there. They're often over here, especially when they're doing important things like feeding.
Reset
so we
the
actually need to
boundaries.
protect that area.
True.
Yeah, and like when and where. Essentially, current protection isn't doing jack. It shows that they have a much higher potential exposure to bycatch risk than previously thought, because the deep dives are where fishing gear may be deployed. The time zone echolocation is reduced during travel, so they wouldn't necessarily hear or see the nets. And then use of offshore areas is very rarely protected in Aotearoa. So essentially, it's a really good way of saying, hey, these conservation methods aren't doing anything or are doing very little, so we need to rapidly update them. It'll probably include getting more data, I would assume, from more dolphins, because as I mentioned, all of these guys were only from this one little bay, and there was only 11 of them. So, you know, with dolphins and porpoises, they have really cool, close-knit social structures, so it could just be that this group of dolphins love diving that far offshore and doing this underwater barrel rolls and stuff. So they'll probably need some more data, but at least in that area, they know that they're probably going to have to extend some no fishing zones or times. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. It shows that even small marine mammals can perform relatively deep, complex dives with sophisticated hunting tactics, with posture shifts and acrobatics. It's really cool. But it also shows that you kind of need to invest in this sort of data, especially in endangered species, to know what they're doing so that you can correctly protect them. You can't just go putting out stuff willy-nilly and hope that it'll work, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, really exciting.
Cool.
I do recommend looking up the graph. It's really fun, and the little sound of them clicking and turning, and you can just sort of imagine it in your head of these guys having this really fun dive, even though they've got this little suction cup on them. Which, by the way, they don't feel. There's good evidence to show that the suction cup doesn't affect their behaviour in any way. So yeah,
just leaves a big circle on their skin. That's all.
Yeah, they look like they've gone through that cupping. Someone's like, holy crap, what's that? There's some athlete dolphin here.
Jay, 4 years ago on this show.
Did you say 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
I was not here 4 years ago, was I?
3 years ago, was it? Must have been 3 years.
Must have been
I don't think I
2021.
was here 3 years
2021. 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Something like that. A while ago on this show. It was 2021.
Were you here 4 years ago?
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago.
I blame
on this
COVID.
show. Yeah, look, COVID fog. Let's just say it's that.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max, Gabe, Peter. What do you got for us, Issy?
I have a story for all those left-handed people out there. This one is from the University of Trento.
Who's left-handed here? Anyone? Or
None.
no?
Well, it's funny because I've got a left-handed dad, a left-handed sister, and Dad was hoping that our dog would be left-handed as well, but she is ambidextrous. So I come from a family of quite strong left-handed pride. So
you can speak on behalf of the
I'm representing. This one is from the University of Trento in Italy. Can I get a QS ranking?
Oh,
this is a number.
Oh, Trento.
I'm going to go 532.
You think that high for Trento? I think like 120.
Oh, 485.
Ah, I said 485.
Wow. I'm on it today.
You are.
I'm really sensing the vibes of these institutions.
They asked the question if left-handers who make up 10% of the population benefit from their rarity in sports as opponents are less familiar with their action patterns, giving, and this is from the journal, an element of surprise.
Yes.
Ooh, what a fun journal.
Yeah. They also had an ongoing alternative hypothesis in this study, which I found really interesting, was that left-handers have a performance edge, regardless of their opponent's experience, through their predisposal traits, like their function specialities of the right hemisphere of the brain, which is dominant for visual, spatial, and visual motor.
Yeah,
visual motor processing. And for us right-handers here, this type of neutral processing requires cross-hemispheric communication, which can cause a delay in making decisions and this is through the corpus callosum, which, if you cast your mind back to year 8, like I just did, is the main bit of white matter that connects the brain. So there is a little time delay for us right-handers in making those decisions. So they wanted to kind of evaluate if that was also present. They took a sample, quite a large sample actually, of 15,099 senior elite athletes from a variety of disciplines like fencing, table tennis, and badminton.
They weren't all
But all
left-handed.
hand sports, it's talking left-handedness, not left-footedness.
Yes.
Because I play soccer and I play on the left wing, and only about halfway through the season did someone tell me, "Oh, that means you're really good with your left foot," and I was like, "What?" Oh, I should be training that then. And I started learning about it. And turns out I'm kind of even, to be honest. Just equally bad.
So this set of people, were they all left-handed or
this was all
both?
mixed.
So 10% would have been
all
left-handed.
mixed, but all handed.
Well, that's what they're examining is the representation.
Okay.
So they retrieved data from lists of top 300 senior female and male athletes from the year-end world rankings from 2004 to 2023, and they had a very interesting conclusion come from that type of method of data pulling. So researchers found that female athletes in fencing and table tennis had an average proportion of left-handers across all ranks, exceeding the general population estimate. So more than 10% of those female athletes were left-handed.
How did they find out they were left-handed? Was it just that they used their left hand more? Did they actually ask them?
I guess it's kind of, I imagine, especially in some sports, you may kind of create some sort of like ambidextrous skills.
Yeah, because you can train it outside of like your natural handedness.
So I guess it was whatever they felt most comfortable, or I guess the most common way that they played. In contrast, women's tennis had an equal frequency of left-handers to the population, and there was a lower frequency in badminton. Yeah.
Badminton, right-handed better.
Right-handed better. For men, the average proportion of left-handers across all ranks, high professional ranks, were higher compared to the overall population in fencing and table tennis. Interestingly, not in saber fencing, which is that wider sword, tennis or badminton.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting because I did fencing for a short period of time in high school, and
that seems right for you,
all the people that I knew
Do
who
they
were
dress
really
like
well.
pirates when they're using the bigger swords?
No, they don't. I did look it up.
That'd be cool.
They're all in the same kit, but the sword is exactly
And
like
which
a
side
saber.
do they wear their eye patch?
Were you good at fencing?
Kind of. It was just like a casual thing. It was like in a church hall, but my friend who took me was a fencing champion and was left-handed as well, which I thought was really interesting. I'm also drawing a lot from my experience through reading this because I played cricket. I hated batting
that's upsetting.
with a left-handed bowler because it was such, like, it could go anywhere. And I remember
Actually, I remember that from baseball. It was they'd always hit me if they were left-handed.
Yeah, I remember asking my coach, can you find, like, pick someone out from the left hand who's left-handed from another team, and can I practice batting?
them,
Because it would always get me out. So super interesting. Let me conclude this. There is a over-representation of left-handers across high-performance ranks in two fencing disciplines, épée and foil fencing, which is your traditional kind of style, but is much lower in saber fencing, with a notable gender gap in female left-handed saber athletes, which can affect the data as well. So they pulled from almost 20-ish years of senior athlete data and found that there were some large gender gaps in data. So they found
more female lefties?
So it was high proportion of left-handers, whilst men's sport had a higher proportion of left-handers, whilst women's sports had more pronounced differences in left-handers between higher and lower performance levels, which is really interesting.
Really interesting.
So
that's so weird.
They kind of pointed out this might be due to differences in tactics and the kind of dynamic characteristics of some sports disciplines as well. So that was a really odd conclusion that they pulled out of this was just through all of this years of data, there has been kind of this weird disparity.
I'm interested in learning how much you could train with it, though.
Yeah.
Because as you said, these are all senior athletes. Like, I'm really interested to see, were all of these people who are lefties since birth? Like, do they have always used their left hand as their handedness? Because there is a certain amount of handedness which is built into you. So, like, how much of it is that? How much of it is they've trained it? And then for the righties, like, what's the spectrum there? The spectrum of ambidextrousness? Like, because I can say with my hands, for writing, my left is useless. It is. I've tried and tried and tried because my brother's ambidextrous. I used to try when I was a kid to draw with both my hands like he can. Just can't do it. My left hand does nothing. It's bloody useless. So I kind of wonder, like, how much can you train this? How much do they train this? Is there a brain plasticity in handedness, and can sport move you along?
Yeah, that was my
These are all just questions.
I did want to know, like, whether or not these athletes were trained from a younger age where they could have that brain plasticity, or if they were older. I'm just going to finish up this So yeah, fencing is one thing. In ball sports, the average overrepresentation of left-handers in table tennis, but not in tennis or badminton, which is really interesting, points to higher concentrations of left-handedness in upper-ranked groups being present due to that element of surprise, with the left-handers benefiting from their opponents' reduced familiarity with their action patterns. I've definitely been ducked out a few times in cricket because of that, where someone comes up to the plate and you have no idea where they're going to swing. So
ball.
Yeah.
Fully. So this was really interesting. I would love to see some more kind of like age specific data as well, or whether or not it has been a skill developed, because I know some
and
athletes.
Whether it changes with feet too.
Feet,
with footed sports.
Eyes as well, whether you have a dominant eye and whether that connects to your brain is another thing that they mentioned they would love to examine further. But I thought this was really interesting. So as I guess the summer season picks up for sport, have a look at which way their arms are swinging.
There are few things more terrifying than playing amateur cricket and hearing the umpire say, left arm fast around the wicket.
Oh, yeah.
What is happening now?
Oh, yeah. Because at that point, everything goes out the window.
Yeah. And the fear sets in.
The fear truly sets in.
Yeah, Peter texted in. He said, what about colour-bond fencing? Is that a thing? No, it's just
no, fuck off. I fully was like...
Anyway, no idea. Space News, you know it. Do you know we've got a satellite up there built by an Australian satellite called Spirit? And it stands for Space Industry Responsiveness Intelligent Thermal.
I'm surprised it wasn't called RU. From our previous discussion.
Actually.
Gravity RU.
Gravity RU.
It's successfully completed the initial phase of its mission, commissioning, if you will. It's led by the University of Melbourne. I don't care what their curious ranking is. In collaboration... This has gone dark. In collaboration with the Italian Space Agency, Spirit is the first space telescope to carry a foreign space agency scientific instrument as its main payload.
19
is the curious ranking.
Since its launch...
We can.
Did we both look it up?
Yeah, I just did.
We have to.
Since its launch aboard a Falcon 9 from California in December 2023, Spirit has circled Earth more than 9,000 times and has been in orbit for over 600 days. It is expected to remain in orbit for more than 1,000 days. Its core mission is to use the Hermes X-ray detector, built in Italy, to spot rare gamma ray bursts, my favourite.
Just in case. You've got to keep track of those, because you never know where a Hulk's going to pop up. You know? Make sure you check them.
So gamma ray bursts are usually associated with stars colliding or dying. NASA has selected its latest batch of astronauts from 8,000 applicants. It's 4 men and 6 women.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
And they're going to start
ladies.
Their 2-year basic space flight training January next year.
Did you hear about that kid who's like, I think she's 19 at the moment, and her whole life she's been training to be the first person on Mars?
Oh, there you go.
It's like her life's goal is to be the first person to live on Mars. She's literally a teenager still, and they're like, yeah, no, we've fully accepted her. She's decided that she's leaving the planet. I'm like, what teenager is like, yeah, I'm 100% sure I'm leaving the planet? What's happened to her? Is she okay? Like, there is more, like, there's
more
life
at play
to live.
here.
She's like, I will be the first person. I'm like, oh, sweetie, We could send a man to do that.
It's oh. And the planet Mercury, its formation is still remains an unsolved mystery, apparently. The planet's closest to the sun has unusually large metallic core, accounting for about 70% of its mass.
And why are we judging it for?
And a small rocky mantle. Yeah. Until now, the most widely accepted explanation was that Mercury lost most of its crust and mantle after colliding with a large celestial body. However, dynamic simulations show that this type of impact involving bodies of very different masses is extremely rare. A new study proposes an alternative explanation based on a type of event that was much more common in the early solar system, a near collision between bodies of similar masses. This possible collision would have occurred at a relatively late stage in the formation of the solar system when rocky bodies of similar sizes competed for space in the inner regions closer to the sun. That's it.
Wow.
I feel like we should have an X-Files sort of
I fully was
thing
like,
going on.
it was playing in my head.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the research team out of Columbia University, QS ranking.
Oh, we just had
88.
this recently.
Columbia?
88. I reckon it's
It's better than
like
that.
23.
23?
It could be less, actually.
43.
43. Okay, so last year they were actually ranked at 23, but they've now slid down to 34.
Whoa, that's a big
Gutting.
slide.
Yeah,
Wow. But hang on, I feel good that I remembered that, though.
Yeah, pretty good.
Easy, Gabe. That's rough.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, but not for much longer. Sign us out, Gabe.
That is all we have time for. This right-handed show of No Idea was brought to you thanks to Cacio e Pepe and all of the subscribers to 4ZZZ who quite literally keep us on air. You can become a subscriber at 4ZZZ.org.au, which is also where you can listen back to the full recording of this show with all the music in it, as well as a bunch of our previous shows at 4ZZZ.org.au. The condensed version of our show is available on your podcasting platform of choice. Just search up No Idea 4ZZZ. It's No with a K. No Idea 4ZZZ. You can also search that up on our socials now. We got TikTok going, we got Instagram going,
We're even on
YouTube's
YouTube
going.
Shorts for the 4-year-olds out there.
For the 4-year-olds out there, I heard something the other day that they're really young kids who are discovering that YouTube has long videos.
Oh,
That's
God.
wild. Anyway, we'll be back in your ears next week. Between now and then, try to perfect your Cacio e Pepe. And Hunty Vinegar, don't underestimate a lefty on the badminton court, and always film sharks doing cool stuff if you're safe to do so. What are you playing us out with, Max?
Well, I thought I'd play a bit of pink jelly. We like a bit of pink jelly to go with our, what was it, the shark threesome?
Yes. I mean, I don't know how it's related, but let's not get into it.
Let's
A little
just not bring that- I
soundtrack.
don't
Let's let that one slide.
So what are we going to title this show, you reckon? No.
That's up to Toby.
We saw you across the bar and we really like your vibe.
Okay, I'm just trying to time it perfectly so it gets to 12 o'clock.
So that's why we're talking about shark
okay,
sex yet
pink
again.
jelly and catch a criminal, and we'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.
I can't talk about the songs. He's cut me off. Because if I talk about it now, then it doesn't work with the podcast because they have to cut this bit out about
Oh, Max.
Don't you think I know that?
Right of reply.
You're making more work for the poor fella.
We'll let Toby sort it out.
What a legend, Toby.
What do you
I'm so
got for us,
sorry.
Gabe? Yeah, sure.